This is our week 4 of Bear Dash. Welcome, everyone. Jasper, you are still frozen. Try talking. All right, well, while Jasper's frozen, we will continue on with the show. So, major news for this week, all Cal fans know. All Pac-12 cornerback Cam Bynum announced that he is leaving Cal early. He's opting out of the season to enter his name in the 2021 NFL Draft. We said a couple weeks ago when Luke Beckett transferred to Boston College that was a huge loss for Cal. This is bigger. This is not great news for the Cal defense, but Cam Bynum was doing what was best for himself. And there's not really anything fans can do to blame him because he started for the Bears for 3 years. He was one of the most loved players on the team. 27 pass breakups, 32 passes defended. He did it all for the Bears. He was a lockdown corner. Didn't get targeted very often. Second team All Pac-12 last season, and heading into this season, he had projections to be first team All Pac-12. And he was going to be a major cog in the Cal secondary that was losing 2 players to the NFL draft in Jalen Hawkins and Ashton Davis. But without Bynum, now Cal's secondary is suddenly lacking the experience that was once, their experience is what made them so dominant in the past and what made even nationally people know about the Cal secondary. So Bynum, great guy, humble leader. He's going to be missed, absolutely. Jasper, are you back?
Yeah.
Sweet.
I'm back. Sorry about that, folks. It's been a chaotic day up here in Berkeley.
Yeah, it is. If you guys don't know, I'm sure everyone knows by now, but the sky is just non-existent right now. If you look up, it's just brown and red. So we're battling through some stuff, but we're talking about football right now in the moment. There's a lot more going on. But Jasper, how do you think Cam Bynum's opt-out affects his draft stock? Because right now he's projected to go as a mid-round pick, even though his college film was great. How do you see this decision playing out?
Honestly, for me, like you said, Bynum is a surefire draft pick. I can't help but thinking, though, his senior season, or in this case, his redshirt senior season, would have helped him. We saw last year, Evan Weaver and Jalen Hawkins had huge senior years, and that helped them get drafted. Jalen Hawkins, in particular, another member of that vaunted secondary, got taken in the 4th round, way above when a lot of people thought he'd get taken. And I think Bynum had the opportunity to do the same thing. He's been Mr. Consistent on the field. You said he's been a big part of this Bears defense. If you look at his statistics from the last 3 years, the man has just been on top of it. 10 passes defended in 2017, 12 in 2018, 10 in 2019. He's been remarkably consistent when it comes to tackles for loss, interceptions. He's just performed every year he's been here. And you can't help but think he would have done the same thing in his final year, in his final season with the Bears.
Does doing the same thing, like if you think he's going to do the same thing, why not opt out now and get those extra months to prepare for the draft and the Senior Bowl and the Combine? Because he was declaring anyways. I mean, he was going to be in the 2021 draft regardless of whether he played a Pac-12 season or not. And since he has been so consistent and since he's been a vaunted cornerback in the Pac-12 for so long, the film is there. Like, the scouts know that he can play. For me, the biggest thing he's losing out on is showing his versatility. Because before all the Corona stuff, when we had the opportunity to talk to Coach Wilcox, and Wilcox was planning on playing Bynum a lot at safety and a lot at nickel, which neither of those were places we really saw him play. He would play a couple snaps here or there, but he was going to see like significant portions of games at those positions. And for a player like him that doesn't have all the athleticism in the world, being able to show your versatility is something he's missing out on. But then again, he's proven that he can be a fantastic cornerback.
Yeah, he more than has. I think the one thing that does it for me is this was going to be a season where a lot of the Pac-12 North offenses were relatively young, relatively inexperienced. We've talked about this before. The other 5 teams in the Pac-12 North were going to feature new quarterbacks. And if you're Cam Bynum and you are a shutdown corner and you do have plenty of experience and plenty of skills, we could have seen this defense really profiting a lot after some of the sort of growing pains in those quarterbacks. You have an opportunity to put up some big numbers. You have an opportunity to be an outstanding player in an outstanding conference. Not that he wasn't already, again, but it's just another opportunity to sort of put up bigger numbers, to grow a little more, to climb up draft boards. And again, like I said, like I think you never know. I mean, you have guys like Weaver. Weaver was also extraordinarily consistent and extraordinarily good in his prior years at Cal, and he took off in his senior season. I think Bynum could have had the same type of productive year. That being said, he's a sure draft pick. He's one of the top 100 prospects in the country. And we got to talk to him earlier this week about his decision. And I think there's a lot of good reasons for this. You talked about his athleticism being something that maybe not holding him back, but a mark against. And he talked a lot about improving his own speed, improving his own technique. So there are definite benefits to declaring for the draft at this point and taking time to focus on his own game.
Yeah, and we're seeing two of Oregon's best players in the past few days have opted out in exchange for going to the draft. And I think there's more dominoes to fall in the Pac-12 and other conferences. That we talked about this on the podcast earlier. I think it was either our first or not podcast, sorry. Bear Dash, like week 1 or week 2, one of our questions was, do we think anyone else on Cal is going to opt out of the season? And we said no, because we didn't think anyone on Cal had their draft stock set in stone enough to want to declare. And Cam Bynum was the one guy who was kind of borderline, because like we said, we did see that consistency from him earlier in his Cal career. But the decision just makes too much sense at this point, with there still not being much more clarity in terms of the Pac-12 happening or not in the spring, even though they have the rapid testing and stuff supposedly in the books. Just for him, and I think more and more NFL prospects, it makes too much sense to go declare now, because the draft is still scheduled for the end of April. The NFL has said nothing about moving that. And then the Combine and Senior Bowl are before that. So if he really wanted to focus on his speed and things like that he thought were knocks on him, I don't think he really even had an option to stay.
Yeah. I will say this. I think he could have improved his draft stock staying here. But I'm not sure that's something that abundantly matters to Bynum. And I don't want to put words in his mouth. He's the only person who knows what he wants and what he's going to get. But I think one of my takeaways from that interview with him is he really seems set on and looking forward to the opportunity to learn and grow as a player, no matter where he ended up, no matter when he was drafted. You said he's going to get drafted. So for an opportunity to grow as a player and work out in that sense, and he might not care as much what his draft stock is. I mean, he'll go to the NFL, and if he can get there and be better when he arrives and be in a position to learn more when he arrives, I'm not sure he's going to care abundantly about what his draft stock is.
And I think that's his biggest strength, is his football IQ and his intangibles, because he was probably one of the most high character players on that team. Everyone loved him. He was a captain for a reason. He was named a captain for a reason. And in the post-game interviews, he's just so well-mannered. He's going to do great in NFL interviews. And he really just has to work on his athleticism. Right now, he said his number one goal is to improve his 40 time as much as possible. He's expected to run around a 4.5. But if he can bring that down to like low 4.4s, I think that's when he's going to have the chance to sneak up into round 3. But right now, I'm going to pencil him in at a round 4 pick. But I think I'll have a great Senior Bowl. It's just the combine drills that may give a slight knock to him, because he has everything else. I mean, he didn't go up against necessarily the best receivers in the country, but the Pac-12 had some great receivers last season, and Cam Bynum absolutely held his own against them. Where do you see him going in the draft?
I think it does depend on a lot on what he's able to do between now and then, but he has a lot of time. I would not be surprised if he goes to the combine and just shines physically, especially if he's prepared there. That would not surprise me at all. He's a guy who works hard, who enjoys working hard. So I'm going to say third round. I think I know I said he can improve his draft stock here, but if he can show up to the combine, he also has a chance of climbing draft boards if he works hard. I will also say this. We talked a little bit about Beckett and his decision to transfer. I like this opting out to prepare for the draft a lot more than transferring. And I know those are different situations, no doubt, but I think it's less of a health risk to players, both in terms of football injuries and in terms of coronavirus. I think
but
this kind of opt out.
Beckett was going to go. He was going to go undrafted if he just declared for the draft now. I mean, he needed to give himself an extra chance, and it wasn't at Cal, but he's still going to at least have the chance to sneak into the 7th or maybe even 6th round. But so without Beckett, without Beckett and without Bynum now, Cal's defense is taking a major hit from the 2019 unit that ranked 4th in the Pac-12. Do you think Cal can still field a top Pac-12 defense without those two guys, and particularly Cam Bynum?
Yeah, and there's always a lot of nuance to this question. I think this team's lost a lot. You talked about the loss of Davis, loss of Hawkins, two really key parts of that secondary, and that was expected. Guys graduate, guys go on to the NFL. They're going to do amazing. But Cal also lost Gerald Alexander, their defensive backs coach, to the NFL. He's going to be coaching the same position group at Miami. And again, that's very exciting. It's very exciting to see guys come through Cal, succeed at Cal, and then go on to do bigger and better things. That's always remarkable, and I think a lot of Bears fans take pride in that. But now Bynum is gone as well. Beckett is gone. It's going to be a lot more difficult. You have a new coach in Marcel Yates, and Yates has a long football resume. He's very talented, but it's starting a new unit. There's no, I think, clear heir apparent to Bynum. There's no one who's just set to fill in. I think on the other side of the defense, you have Chiggy Anuzium, who's going to step into that cornerback role. He started the Red Box Bowl. He's, I think, much more prepared. And you never know with this Cal team. In the Wilcox era, this has been a great defensive unit, so they can bounce back. But I see this being difficult. This is a lot of talent to replace.
I disagree.
This is a big ask.
I disagree with there being no clear heir to Cam Bynum, because I think Chigozie Anuzium, who the team, the coaches, most of the media call him Chiggy. That's his nickname. I think so. Cam Bynum said in his exit interview that he thinks Chiggy has the potential to be one of the top cornerbacks in the nation. I don't know if I would go that far, but that dude can absolutely play. He is a stud, and in a lot of Pac-12 teams, he would have been the number one corner. And without Bynum, he's going to have to step into that role a bit earlier than he thought, but I think he's all for it. He's 6'2", he's rangy, he's long, he gets his hands on the ball. He's everything you want in a corner. He just needs more experience, and he's going to be pushed into that early. But I think he's very well trained to be the top corner on this team. But as you said, the secondary has a lot of turnover from last season. Bynum was expected to be like the glue that connected this year's unit to last year's unit. But without him, it's going to be a young secondary. Now, you still have Elijah Hicks and Josh Drayden, both seniors who have played a lot of Cal football and done it very well. But those two guys can't play like all 5 secondary positions at a time. There's going to be some younger guys in there. So off the bat, Cal's going to have to play some people who have barely played in the secondary, because they've been so stacked the past 2 years in the secondary that a lot of these younger guys like Jalen Martin, Brandon Smith, they haven't really played, and a lot of the backup safeties, but they have the potential. We've seen them in camp. Who do you think? Chiggy's the number one corner, obviously, at this point. But who do you think is going to step in and play the other outside cornerback role?
Yeah, this is a difficult position. I think it's in a lot of ways a wide open position battle. This is happening not relatively late because we don't know when the season is going to start, but this is I again, like, these are a lot of guys with not a lot of experience. So it's hard to say. Brandon Smith sticks out in my mind as just someone who's been around the team for a while, someone who could maybe has the most experience out of a group with very little experience. Drayden obviously is going to slide into the nickel, but the other thing is this coaching says a lot. They're going to be so I could see maybe you slide the cornerback on a couple plays. I mean, there's a lot of options here, and there's a lot of young guys coming into this team too. Isaiah Young is a freshman that could step up. But yeah, I guess Brandon Smith is the name that sticks out to me. But again,
I would have to
we'll see with training camp.
Brandon Smith has been a standout player for Cal. In camp, we saw it in the fall. He was making highlight plays left and right on the field, and a lot of us reporters thought that Smith would have a bigger role. But like I said earlier, the secondary was just so stacked that he just didn't really get to see the field at all. And one thing Jasper was saying, we apologize for the bad connection, but Jasper mentioned the possibility of moving Elijah Hicks back to cornerback. He was traditionally a cornerback. He's played 3 seasons there. He started almost 30 games at cornerback for Cal. So if they feel like the young safeties can take the role, take the starting positions, that's absolutely on the table for Hicks to slide back into that CB2 role, and you would not lose much because I said it earlier, Chiggy's the real deal, and that cornerback duo with Josh Drayden at the nickel is going to be amongst the best in the Pac-12, even without Bynum. But on the other side, for me, Hicks is much better suited to play safety. He's got a very physical build. He's a perfect box, strong safety. He's 5'11", 200 pounds. Not the greatest in man coverage, but he'll make some plays, especially in zone and especially coming down to tackle. But he would be an above average second cornerback, and that would not be a bad thing. The other name to look out for on the outside to take Chiggy's place, because Chiggy's going to take the number 1 role, would be Jalen Martin. He's a redshirt freshman who Gerald Alexander, Cal's secondary coach from last season, who is now in the NFL. He's the one who assembled the Takers, the unit that everyone knows. He was very high on Jalen Martin. He's a young guy, but he's also got the mold of that tall, extremely fast corner. Also 6'2". He needs to put on some weight for sure. But I think you're right that it's going to be an open competition if they don't move Hicks back to corner. But this defense has a lot to work on. But Wilcox and defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter have proven that they can develop star NFL-worthy talent with 3-star recruits, and that's what a lot of these guys are. A lot of Cal's better recruits are coming in 2020, 2021. But these are the type of players they like, and they've proven to do it year in and year out. Is someone graduates, someone goes to the league, the next guy usually does just as well, and I don't think that's going to change. Jasper, are you back?
That's a question only you can answer. Am I back?
You sound good. You sound good to me.
All right. Sorry, folks.
What impact did Bynum's leadership have on the defense? Because he was a captain, and leadership is going to be extremely important this season. We talked about Weaver leaving, who was a team captain. Bynum, team captain, gone. Luke Beckett was one of the longest tenured players on this defense. So this defense needs leadership on the field. You need someone who's going to be able to communicate with the guys. We talked about it potentially being Elijah Hicks. Who's someone you see that can play a leadership role? Cam Good could be someone who's been here for a while. There's just a lot of experience gone, and that could worry some people.
Yeah. I think you're right to be. Actually, I don't even think you're right to be worried. I wouldn't be. I think one of the things we've noticed in the last couple of years, one of the things I've noticed talking to coaches, talking to players, is that they've really prioritized this coaching staff recruiting high character guys, recruiting guys that aren't just talented, but that have high football IQs, that are smart, that are respectful, that are there to really work hard, play hard, and not just be good football players, but be good people. And I think that translates in situations like this when you have crises like a pandemic, when there's sort of things are unsure and there's sort of chaos in there. These are a lot of players that are willing to step in and step up and think above just football and above just the immediate future. There's still a ton of experience, like you said. Cam Good is a guy that's been around for a long time. Dang is another draft eligible player who showed up last season, had a great year, and could be a real leader on the defense. A lot of players come to Cal because it's not just about football. Cal is a great institution. It's a great place to learn. It's a great place to grow. And that mindset matters on the field. It matters in situations like this when you maybe lose a couple of your captains. You have players who are going to step up, who are going to be responsible and respectful and hard workers. So I think the loss of play experience hurts, but I would not be worried about the character of any player on the Cal football
team. Yep. So we've got Cam Bynum as the first player to officially declare for the 2021 draft from Cal. But we saw it last year. Three Bears got drafted, and there's still a lot of talent left on this team heading into 2021. And there's a good chunk of draft eligible players, some players who could be on the fence if they have good years. If there is a season, they might go to the league. If there's not a season, they'll stick around for their senior season. But off the bat, who are some names of players you could see declaring for the draft? And then we can get into how high will they go, how many of them will get drafted, things like that.
Yeah. I mentioned Dang. You mentioned Cam Good. Those are two players that have been were outstanding last season on Cal defense. Cam Good's been around for a while. Dang is a transfer, but he had a great year just sitting next to Evan Weaver and performing. I also think a lot of O-linemen could hit the draft. You have guys like Mike Safell, Jake Curran, who are both seniors. They could be late round prospects. And then you have plenty of juniors as well, who, if they have really outstanding seasons, could get a look. Chris Brown Jr. is Cal's number one running back. Chase Garbers has improved every year he's been here. Kiko Crowder, receivers that have not been outstanding, but again, it only takes one good season to get in that conversation.
Yeah, I think
there's still a lot of players out there.
Yeah, I think CBJ and Garbers are the two guys who are really on the fence where if they have good seasons, they could go to the league. But for me, Chase Garbers is a guy, I think he has all the potential in the world. I could see him
absolutely
going drafted in the top 2 rounds. And that's not just me exaggerating. After last season,
okay,
no way.
But the top 2 rounds here this season or next season?
So my thinking with Garbers is he's not going to declare until he knows he's got his draft stock as high as possible. Because for a quarterback, your age doesn't matter that much. I mean, Joe Burrow was Joe Burrow, but he was in college for 5 seasons. It's different when you're a running back and you need to keep your legs healthy, and scouts tend to favor younger running backs a little more. But I don't think Garbers is going to declare until he feels his draft stock is as high as it's going to get, which I don't think it's anywhere close to that. If he has an incredible spring season, I could see a world in which he declares. My gut tells me he's going to stay his senior year, just with everything going on. Even if he does have a great season, I don't think his stock is going to go that high. But by the 2022 draft, I could absolutely see him being a top 3 round pick at the lowest. I think he has such a bright future.
I agree with you on that front. I think after his senior season, he'll be a home run product. He's improved massively in just his 3 years at Cal. and now he's with Bill Musgrave, who's really a great quarterbacks coach, running the offense. It's a pro-style scheme. That's only going to get him more attention. You said, though, and I'm not sure he can do it after his junior season. What do you think? What would Chase Garbers have to do this year to be a top 2 round pick?
So if he wanted to, I just want to make it clear, I don't think he's going this year. But for him to go this year, he would have to have an insane season. I don't know how many games a spring season would look like, but he would need to be in the ballpark of like 3 to 4 touchdowns a game and like one interception a game, like that type of ratio. That's the only way he's going to go this season, if he feels like he wants to get paid. He thinks he's good enough for the league. But let's get back to guys. That's for a different discussion. Let's get back to the guys who we know can and likely will go to the draft in 2021. And for me, the headline of this class is Coin Dang. And you brought him up. I have a hot take about him. I think if he declares if there's a spring season, he's going to get drafted above Cam Bynum because he has the most insane potential in the world. If you look at his build alone, he's an inside linebacker who can also play outside if needed. He's 6'6", which is not unheard of, but extremely rare as an inside linebacker. And the only knock on him was that he was too thin. But he added 25 pounds of muscle this season and is still incredibly fast. He disrupts passing lanes. He's great in coverage. And he was 3rd in the Pac-12 in tackles, playing next to Evan Weaver, who stole everyone's tackles. Evan Weaver got every tackle, and Coin Dang still finished 3rd. He has so much potential. I mean, this is a guy who had offers from a lot of SEC schools. Auburn was in one of them. He was Cal's top recruit of the 2019 class as a transfer. He was on Last Chance U. People might have seen him there. He's a guy who I think I don't think he's going to fall out of day 2. I really don't. He's got all the physical assets, and he's a great guy. I was lucky enough to be able to feature him. We had a long interview, and he's just humble, but he can dominate. And now with Weaver gone, he's gonna be right there in the middle of this defense, and I think he's gonna wake some people up. They'll see how great he is.
Absolutely. Coin Dang could be a real breakout star. And he also, little tidbit on the side, he's a basketball player as well, so the guy has hands, great in pass coverage. We talked about that being a knock on Evan Weaver. That's not a problem with Coin Dang. He was, I believe, 2nd on Cal in pass breakups in the middle linebacker position, so he can really do everything. Another guy I think we mentioned earlier, Cam Good, had 9 sacks last season. A very productive edge rusher. If he has a really productive senior year, I could see him climbing up draft boards and getting drafted.
The biggest thing with him is he just needs to prove he can stay healthy because he's been at Cal for a while, but he's not played that many games. So he's also the type of guy who just needs more film. He needs to show that he was, I think, 3rd in the Pac-12 in sacks last season, but he needs to show that he could do it for more than just one season. And he's also an insane athlete. But he needs to prove he can stay healthy. I mean, teams are not willing to draft players that the biggest reason for players sliding in the draft is due to injury history. And he's not even guaranteed to get drafted. I think that he definitely can get drafted, but he needs to prove that he can play a whole nother season.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of players, I think, with this Cal program that fall in the same category. A lot of the O-linemen could benefit from really long, productive, healthy season. We talked about their injuries last year. But there are really plenty of Cal players who, with the right year, and they've all got the talent and the skills, could break into this NFL draft and blow it open.
Yeah, I mean, we're not scouts. It's a bit harder to tell which offensive linemen are draft worthy, which versus which ones aren't. But there are some talented O-linemen on the Cal offense to watch out for, like you said, and it's going to be a fun next couple drafts for Bears fans.
Absolutely. Well, unfortunately, folks, that's all the time we've got for this week. Thank you for bearing with us. It's chaotic, dare I say, apocalyptic here in Berkeley. But we love to be here. We love to talk Cal football. So that's all the time we've got. If you have any questions that weren't answered, feel free to hit up our Twitters. They're right here. And you can also find us at Dash Sports TV on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, and find more content at our website and at dailycal.org, where both Shaylin and I cover Cal football and Cal sports. But like I said, it's been a pleasure. And in the words of our good friend, Justice De Los Santos, stay hydrated and stay safe in these insane times.